Hi guys, I'd like to welcome all of us to my channel of Honesty Sciences and Mathematics TV channel. Now today's discussion basically is going to be a discussion on specific features which are found on the cranium, which forms part of the axial skeletal part of the human support system. So we are going to look at this particular concept of the Sutures, and I'm going to mention, of course, a number of Sutures which are basically found on this specific part of this axioskeletal system, which we refer to as the cranium. This is going to assist us, of course, appreciate the functions which they play, and they are going to open for us a window in trying to describe specifically one of the type of joints that we can be able to, of course, try to figure, of course, in this particular skeletal system, which falls under the category of immovable joints. So in that case, I've mentioned about the concept of a cranium. And as we said in our introductory video, of course, this cranium plays a vital role in trying to protect the internal organs which are found, of course, on this upper part of the support system. And we had mentioned a few of these specific parts, of course. And we stated that this particular skull plays a vital role, especially in trying to provide a passage for the digestive system through this particular section that I'm encircling. And then we have this particular respiratory system that has a passage through this. And of course, other olfactory organs. And of course, we're going to see that there's this as part of the skeletal system which forms perhaps we're going to appreciate a frontal view of this, of course, in collaboration with this lateral view. But this provides a section for the socket for eyes, which forms part of the vision and human. And of course, we're going to see that other parts at this specific point provide accessory organs like the ears, etc. So in this particular cranium, we have the organ which we refer to as the brain, of course, which is embedded in this skull as we had mentioned earlier. And then therefore, this is going to play also various functions, and we mentioned that one when we were having a discussion on the human brain and its various functions. So for today, we're going to look at various Sutures or these particular immovable joints which are found on the cranium. And of course, for us to appreciate that, it is going to be important for us to try to see which different parts of these particular bones and where are these particular Sutures located. So in that essence, of course, we're going to try and classify this particular cranium into sections. And of course, so I'm going to achieve that by trying to describe this front part and then this upper part and the lower part, which you refer to as the mandible. So of course, we're going to see that this one can form part of what we refer to as the facial skeleton, which basically consists of, which I can give roughly as three bones. And this is going to be the mandible that forms this lower part of the facial skeleton. And then we have what we call the maxilla, which of course is going to be right and left. We'll check on that one from the frontal view of course, this display of the human cranium. And then we have what we call zygomatics. Zygomatics, of course, are going to form the right and left part of this facial skeleton, as we're going to see later. Now, there's a range of bones which are going to assist us, of course, identify these various Sutures that I've talked about. And from this, of course, we're going to see a range of around 8 bones, a number which consists of basically some bones on the right and left part of this cranium that I've mentioned, of course, that is going to appear in a frontal or lateral view. And of course, we're going to see that from this particular part, we have a range of around 8 bones, which we can be able to identify from this particular set. So we have different color codes for this. Now for the blue, the one that has been labeled in blue, I hope this color. So the one that has been labeled in blue is referred to as the temporal bone. And then here we have what we call the occipital bone that is separated using this particular section that is being shown at here. And this is a point of interest for us in trying to identify various parts which are separating these bones. So this section, this larger section of the upper part and behind this cranium is referred to as a parietal bone. And of course, this is going also to form a right and left part of this cranium, as we're going to see. So there's a separation point that we're going to see being labeled at that particular point. But of interest for us is to try and identify this next bone that is appearing at this part. And this is referred to as the frontal bone, which also forms part of the larger category of bones that I've mentioned that we're going to look at. So lastly, we're going to look at this ethmoid bones, which are found at around this specific part of the skull, which we are going to also appreciate from the frontal view of this particular bone. Now, the functions of these particular separations that I've referred to as sutures, of course, are going to act as connection points, which basically are going to connect cranial bones together in order to facilitate, or rather in order to form this specific structure of the human skull, as I've said. Now, later we'll see on that as we grow up, or human beings are developing from infants to adult, the size of this particular cranium is going to increase in size. Now, that one will have a compromise on these particular sections that we have said are immovable joints. So we're going to see a unique characteristic in a sense that in infants, these sutures basically are more flexible and fibrous. They are made up of dense fibrous materials in adults, humans, but in infants, these basically materials are flexible and fibrous in order to enable for the enlargement of the brain, which is of course growing inside this specific skull. So therefore, we're going to see that there's that slight difference, and therefore that is going to assist us, of course, in trying to describe the various changes that we may encounter, maybe in fusion of bones and other areas that we're going to see insofar as the development of the cranium is concerned. So I'm going to use a different illustration in order to try and see these various sutures that I've mentioned. And of course, that is going to assist us in differentiating the various names that we may encounter insofar as the cranium sutures are concerned. So we are going to use the lateral view in collaboration with the, of course, the frontal view of this particular bone. And of course, this is going to assist us in trying to create a contrast between what we had referred to as the right and left part of this skeletal system that we refer to as the cranium. So therefore, we're going to see that we can have special 4 major types of cranial sutures. And these cranial sutures are going to be classified due to from that point of separation between different bones that we have already mentioned. So the first one that I'm going to mention here is the lambdoid suture, which basically is going to be found between the occipital and the parietal bone. So this is the occipital and this is the parietal bone, which forms this larger section of the upper part. Now they are separated with this particular type of suture that we refer to as the lambdoid suture that runs across this point where I'm trying to illustrate. So next we're going to look at the coronal suture, and the coronal suture basically is this is a suture that is found between the frontal and the parietal bone, and therefore basically this is the kind of separation that we are talking about that is referred to as the coronal suture that separates between the parietal and the frontal bone located at that specific point. And then next we're going to look at what we refer to as the sagittal suture. And this is the suture that is found between two parietal bones. Now, of course, this is going to be more elaborate using this specific illustration lower, my lower left part of it. Basically, the separation between these two parietal bones is referred to as the sagittal suture that cannot be, of course, visualized from this lateral view of my upper image. So therefore, this is the sagittal sutures that we're going to look at that particular part. And the last one of these major sutures that we're going to look at is the squamous suture. Of course, we can be able to look at that one using this particular illustration. And this is going to be a suture that is found between the temporal bone and the parietal bone. So these are the two bones, and then we are going to have this particular separation, which is going to form what we refer to as the squamous suture. Now, as we go by, we're going to see that there are different, of course, areas in which we are going to use in identifying various features of this particular cranium. And then, therefore, that is going to assist us in trying to appreciate, of course, the various features that we may come across, in addition to the sutures that we have talked about, which, of course, are going to assist it perform its overall function. Now, as we mentioned, of course, that is going to be in complementary with other structures that are found inside here, or maybe you have points of accessibility like the digestive system that I've said, the human, of course, that is the respiratory system that I've mentioned, this access for vision for the ball sockets and the ears, and generally the olfactory organs that are accessibility using these particular skulls. and there are particular sections, and there are different parts, of course, which we refer to as the foramina, which are going to be allowing for the passage of blood vessels and nerves into and out of the skull. So therefore, as we said in one of our videos, that the bones are living, or rather living, of course, tissues. Therefore, we are going to see that these basically are going to have an overall role of trying to collaborate with other organs, which are adjacent or next to or embedded inside this particular skull to perform its overall function. So next, we are going to have a series of videos, which are going to be short ones, of course, trying to describe different parts of the skeletal system, which are going to assist us all really appreciate what general role these particular parts play in supporting, of course, the concept of movement and locomotion in humans. So catch us in our next videos. We're going to look at a different part of this support system. And of course, this is going to assist us, of course, understand the general, of course, function as I've said. So that is it for now, guys. Bye. God bless you.